You're watching Robb Report live at the North American International Auto Show. I'm Katrina Szish, and I'm joined by Bill Ford Jr., the Executive Chairman of the Ford Motor Company.
Hi, Katrina.
So nice to see you.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
So I understand you've been up since 5 in the morning, so you are already kind of wide awake today and ready to go, and I am so excited to talk to you because I understand you just unveiled the new Ford Fusion and also the Raptor.
Yeah, so this has been a really fun show. So the Raptor is kind of the ultimate in adrenaline and kind
Yes.
of, it's a big sort of testosterone machine. It's very cool. And then the Fusion, we have that version, the Fusion Sport, which is very fast, very fun. Then we also have the Fusion Hybrid and the Fusion Energy, which is a plug-in hybrid. So we kind of have it all covered today.
I love it. Now, of course, I want to go back a little bit. Now, how have you really seen the Ford Motor Company change since you started on as CEO? Because I know you spent a lot of time there before you became CEO.
Right. Well, I've actually sort of been born into it.
Of course.
There's been, every year changes a lot. I think, though, what's different now is we're on the cusp of really a revolution, which we've never seen before, which is morphing from just an auto manufacturer into a mobility company, and all the things that will entail. And so, I think if you and I were to be talking in 10 years from now, we'd have a very different business model than we have today.
Now, talk to me a little bit more about that mobility. I guess you're calling it smart mobility, and I think that's kind of in your DNA because that's what your great-grandfather did really in terms of changing mobility.
Exactly. So, prior to the Model T, most people never traveled more than 25 miles from home in their entire lifetime,
Wow.
which is a crazy thought, but it's true. And with the Model T, people could choose where they lived, where they played, where they worked. Now, fast forward, 100 years later, and we have cities around the world which are literally in gridlock. You don't have to travel very far to go to any major city around the world, and you just sit in traffic.
Absolutely.
And so we're already seeing things like Uber and Lyft, and some cities restricting cars into city centers, and so this whole world of urban mobility, how we move people around, will change it is changing, but it'll change even more in the next few years.
Now, how is that affecting the design of cars?
Well, it's interesting. You see it more on the software side than the hardware side. So, eventually we'll probably have small little city cars and all that, but already we're working on things like autonomous driving.
Yes, I've been hearing a lot about that. It's a buzzword.
It is a buzzword. Self-parking, all these things that make city driving much easier. And frankly, we have to do it because if we don't do it, today it's an inconvenience. It'll become a human rights issue if we can't move healthcare and food efficiently around city centers. So it's a great opportunity, but it's also a large problem to be solved.
Now, I also want to talk a little bit about what you did with the Rouge plant in Dearborn. I understand there's a lot of discussion about it, there's a lot of debate about it, but I know that people are saying it's such a wonderful thing. Tell us a little bit about that and what you did there.
Well, so the Rouge was once the icon of 20th century manufacturing, and at its height, it employed 100,000 people in one site, which is amazing. But over time, it had kind of fallen into disrepair. And about 10 years ago, I was sitting with an architect, Bill McDonough, who was known as the Green Dean of architects. He was the dean of the UVA School of Architecture. And we were talking about doing some offices in an environmentally friendly way. And I said, okay, Bill, forget offices for a minute. And I pointed out my window. I said, there's the world's largest brownfield site. What can we do with it? And we started to reimagine what a completely green and human space could look like in a place like that. So we started, and we had no idea where this journey was going to lead us. What was very cool was by the end of it, 90% of the ideas came from our employees, not from Bill and his team. And so today, it is the most sustainable manufacturing site in the world. It's very cool. There's all kinds of really cool stuff that's there.
I heard there's grass on the rooftop.
It was the largest grass roof in the world. I think there might be one larger now.
How dare they?
I know, how dare they? But the other thing that's cool is, so paint fumes are notoriously not great things that come out of plants.
Yes.
So we've captured the paint fumes and we're reusing that to power our fuel cells, which are help powering the plant. We have very low-tech things like permeable paving, so when it rains, all the water goes right down into the ground rather than flush through sewer systems. Same thing with wastewater treatment. We worked with Michigan State to devise a field of phytoremediation, and what that really means is plants, very pretty plants of all cattails and different types of green material, but they all suck up bad stuff. So you put not so great water into this swale of fields, and what comes out the other end is drinking quality water. Very low tech, but very pretty to look at and very effective.
I think it's interesting because a lot of people wouldn't think that someone, of course, who's been in the automotive industry since birth, as you pointed out, would be so passionate about environmental issues and really combining that with the automotive industry and your products.
That really started when I was in college. I became exposed to a lot of cutting-edge environmental thinking, and it really resonated with me. And when I got back to Detroit, I was appalled at the lack of awareness and, frankly, the lack of interest in this issue. And it took me many years of fighting. In fact, I was told when I joined the board in '88 that I had to stop associating with any known or suspected environmentalists.
Really?
I was. And of course I said there's no chance.
You said no way.
Yeah, exactly. And I kept going.
They didn't fire you?
They didn't fire me. And I outlasted all of them, which is great. But yeah, it was a long struggle to get our industry and my company the head wrapped around it. But one of the things I feel really great about is in 2014, we were named the world's greenest company by Interbrand, which tracks brand reputations, not just autos, but of any company. And that showed me how far we'd come in the journey.
Spectacular. Now, how are you seeing Detroit respond to some of Ford's efforts now? Do you think there is more of an awareness?
Yeah, there is, both on environmental issues and also now on this mobility issue of really changing our game all over again. And so what we have going for us in this area is the most trained engineers of any place in the country. So there are a lot of really capable people that we can turn loose on these issues. It was funny, about a year ago, I think if you and I were just having this conversation, the prevailing wisdom was that the tech world, i.e. Silicon Valley, was going to basically put us out of business because they had all the new ideas and we were kind of yesterday's manufacturing news. Over the last year, I think there's been a much greater realization that those two worlds are coming together. We know how to make things. We know how to integrate technology into our platforms. So it's really fun and it's really interesting, but it is reshaping our industry. It's reshaping this region.
And that's how we're talking about, the intersection of Silicon Valley and of course, the automotive industry. Are we talking mostly about kind of the autonomous driving aspects of it, or what
That's
other
certainly
angles?
a large part of it, but a large part of it too is for instance, we announced today something called the Ford app, Ford Pass, which is an app where you can be a Ford customer or not, but your app can find you open parking spots. You can pay for it right from your app. You can reserve it from your app, so you can, it'll hold the spot for you. You'll have a Ford guide available 24/7 you can call that won't sell you a vehicle, but will help you with any mobility problem you have. You can earn rewards. So it's and this is very early days. But a year from now, it'll be built out much more. So I think the technology is coming at us from all sides. It's from the customer side, and also actually the powertrain itself. I mean, we're electrifying our powertrains.
Yes.
People are still working on hydrogen potentially as a solution. So kind of wherever you look, technology is changing the game of the auto industry.
What do you love most about your job? I mean,
Oh,
I think people are like, oh, of course he loves cars, he was born into this, so they
Right.
assume a lot. But what is your passion? What do you love?
My passion is change. I love what's going on now. In fact, I launched a venture capital firm in 2009 in the space that's now called mobility. At the time, there was no name for it because I could see great change coming. And I love the fact that there is tremendous disruption taking place in our industry. If we get it right, we'll be a very different company than used to exist 10 years ago. If we get it wrong, we'll probably be not much of a company in 10 years. So to me, it's a great challenge and I love it.
Well, something tells me you're going to get it right.
Well, I certainly hope so.
Bill Ford Jr., thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to see you.
Great to see you
Thanks.
too. Katrina Szish, and you're watching Robb Report Live.